Hey game designers, in this video I'm going to teach you guys how to make one of the structures um, for Module 5. So Module 5 required us to, right here, create these elements. And the one that we skipped was a structure with entrance and exit. Now technically, entrance and exit's very vague. So if you look at my project, let's just call this one the entryway and let's call this one the exit. It does have columns. It is a medieval structure. So let's just go with that. Again, I don't want to overly burden you guys with, creating something that's very complicated and would take you, years to make. Let's just make something a very simple structure. Um, and this is kind of like the final product. So let's go ahead and delete everything and kind of teach you guys how we went about to make this medieval structure. Okay. I believe it was called a carriage, a medieval carriage. I think it's the proper term for this type of structure. Okay. So I'm just go ahead and delete it. I'm going to delete my reference. So all I did, guys, if when we last left off was, we had this bridge, this grass, um, we had, some rock paths, and we had some water. We had some water level, underground water level. So this is kind of like where we last left off. So basically, obviously, when we're creating something new and we really don't need to know where it goes yet, I just recommend hiding everything. So hide your path, hide your rock path, hide your underground water, hide your water, hide your grass, hide your bridge, so that you're working with as fast of an environment as possible. And let's go ahead and teach you guys how, again, to find a reference that you like. Now, again, you can decide to make your own structure. I'm just, again, teaching you guys the tools. You guys do what you need want to do with it. So here we're going to use a import button to import a picture of a reference that you might want to use. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys what I found. So I just typed in medieval structure with columns. And then I looked at all these, really complicated things that's going to take me way too much time to do. So I just kept on going. Like this one was reasonable. It might take me, maybe an hour or 2 hours to do this one. But I just kept on scrolling down and just looking for something that is going to take me a lot less time to make. And I kept on going and going. And I was like, oh God, this is going to take forever. That one takes forever. Oh, this is nice, but this is not really a structure. It's kind of a broken down structure. And I kept on going and I go, oh, maybe I can only do that part of it and this not this part. And then I kept on going and going and going and going. And I kept on looking at all these walls and internal structures. And eventually I found this, an ancient Rome architecture. And I was like, that looks simple enough. So here's an ancient Rome structure. I just go ahead and right clicked on it and saved image as, and I just left it as whatever name it was, and I'm just going to leave it on my desktop. For you guys, you're going to leave it inside my documents or something. Go and click save. Go back to your vectory. Go ahead and import it. Click on import. Go ahead and choose file. If it's in your desktop, look at your desktop. If it's in your document folder, look in your document folder. So I'm just going to click on it. Okay. So vectory automatically puts it on the image plane for you. Let's go ahead and do some quick rotations to kind of get us where we want. So I'm going to rotate it, and if you hold shift, it'll actually kind of snap it to 15 degrees, which is pretty nice. So I just snapped it to 90, but you're going to go ahead and click on rotation and make it 90 as well. I'm going to use the Alt key and left click drag to kind of move my camera so that it snaps. And once it snaps, I can kind of move it where I want to see it roughly. And again, you don't have to do it directly to the reference, but for me, it takes away from the creative part that I don't have to worry about. I just know that if I do, you know, with this reference, I got something pretty realistic looking. So I just kind of moved it to the back of my screen because it just serves as a reference anyway. And let's go ahead and start thinking about, okay, so if I want to, model this structure, where do I want to start? And my suggestion is we start from the bottom because it touches the ground and kind of work our way up. And I want to do it in kind of three phases because I want to kind of do these three right here because these three steps kind of look like just cylinders and kind of moved in. Then I'll maybe make one column, and then maybe I'll use some type of array inside a circle to kind of create this 6 pillars here. And then looking at the top part, I'm kind of go, well, the one that's kind of hard to model is the circle on the top, the sphere on top. So maybe I'll start with the sphere and kind of work my way down and make the rest of this structure. So that's how we're going to do it. That's kind of like our plan. We'll do it in like 3 phases: the steps, the columns, and then the top. And I try to do this in, I don't know, under 30 minutes or so. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my primitives here and start with a cylinder. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and snap it again to kind of help me figure out, how wide I want it and whatnot. So I'm going to go ahead and decrease the height. Okay, something like that. And I'm going to go ahead and increase the number of radius segments. Now, if you're having performance issues, I like multiples of 6. So I'm going to go 12 for mine. But if you are running into performance issues, maybe you only want to do 6 or 8, something along those lines. I'm going to go ahead and increase the radius now. The radius is too small. So it looks something like that. So it looks like 90 is a nice number. So I got 90, a height of 12. It doesn't matter what the exact numbers are. Again, we're just using it for reference and trying to get an eyeball. So I got myself a disk. So once you're done with the general size of your disk, go ahead and click on Convert to Geometry. And let's go ahead and work with this. So when you go to the Edit menu, you'll start seeing the faces, the edges, and the vertices here. So the bad part about Vectory, and one of the features it doesn't have is a way to make this a reference. So I kind of lose this. So I kind of gotta eyeball it now and kind of go, okay, this is not too bad. Just make 3 circles inward to make these 3. Now you could just go ahead and duplicate the object and then merge them together. But if you understand how to use the extrude tool is actually better for this particular tool. So we're going to kind of extrude inward, extrude upward, extrude inward, extrude upward, and then we're going to be done. So you don't have to actually make 3 different objects. So let's go and go to the edit and go ahead and click on a face. So you can sit here and shift click all the faces. Let me take you a quick way of doing it. If you just double click on a face, it'll kind of give you the radial tool again. There's a tool called select planar. So it selects all the faces on that plane. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to extrude inward. Okay. So make sure you hit enter once you have all the faces selected here. And we're going to extrude inward. Now watch what happens when I just move everything inward. So I'm not extruding, I'm just moving, right? It actually bends the bevel. And that's not what I want. That's not what the column looks like or the steps look like. Now this is what you're going for, then that's what you do. But I'm going to Control Z that. So again, I don't want to scale inward. I want to extrude inward. So I'm going to need to hold the Shift button and click on the double square, which is scaling everything inward. Hold Shift, and I'm going to extrude inward. And that creates that first face, that first circle steps of faces on that first step. Now, I could just pull up, but again, pulling up creates a bevel. Like, I don't want a bevel. I want to actually create a step that goes upward. So again, you're going to hold Shift to extrude. I'm going to extrude upward. Okay. And now you can see that I kind of have the steps going, right? And now I'm going to go ahead and create another one, kind of repeat the same process. Again, I'm going to hold Shift to extrude inward, create that next set of steps. And, if I want to be really accurate, I can go ahead and change my camera angle, but I think that's good enough. I'm going to hold Shift again, and there you have it. Now I have the first 3 steps of my stairs. Now suppose that you did it and you didn't like certain things and you wanted to fix it. Yeah, you can always still fix it. It's not like you extruded and everything's done. So for example, let's say that I really want to make this even. Okay, well, I still have these faces selected. I can just push this down. Okay, and that will make my steps a little bit more even. If I really wanted to, I can hold the Alt tool and it snap right here, and I can really get it the exact height I want. Kind of get it, really eyeball perfect if you're that type of personality. Let's say like the middle step doesn't look quite in the center. It looks like it's more closer to this face than this face. So you can kind of click the faces if you want. So I'm going to click on this set of faces right here. I'm going to click on the loop selection. It'll select the entire loop, hit enter twice, and I'm going to scale it outward and inward again. So I still have the ability to go in there and edit things if I want to change the way that looks. And there you have it. So I kind of got it the way I wanted it. So you had to edit some things. So let's go back to object view, and I kind of got the base of my my structure done. So I'm gonna go ahead and just go ahead and rename it real quickly. Let's just call this the base. Let's go ahead and make one of these columns. So again, we're not going to model all 6 columns. We're going to model one of them, and then we're going to copy them in a circle-like manner. So let's go ahead and create another object. So if I look at this, it looks like kind of like mini circles bending inward and outward and inward and outward. And you don't have to do it exactly like this. We're just going to, do something that's quick, but still shows that we're adding some detail to our columns. It's not just one cylinder. So I'm going to go here and, oops, I'm going to delete that. Don't need that primitive. I'm going to start with a cylinder primitive here. And I'm going to go ahead and move it up. I'm going to use my Alt tool and hold left click to kind of snap my camera. Move it just about where I want it here. Let's go ahead and change the radius segments. Now, again, if you're running into performance issues, like maybe do 8, I got 12 here. And obviously, I'm going to zoom back. The height is not tall enough. Let's go ahead and decrease the radius to something like that. Okay, and let's go ahead and change the height, make it a little bit taller, something like that. Actually, I'm not gonna make it taller. It doesn't really matter because I'm actually gonna start way down here. So it's gonna start off as like, I don't know, 5 or something. So it's gonna start off. I'm just gonna start off with the bottom one. Actually, I want to start a little bit bigger. So let's go and increase the radius to maybe like 10. So I kind of going to create the very bottom of it and kind of taper in, taper out, taper in, taper out, and kind of create that little curviness to it. So it looks like I'm going to make one here, one here. So kind of make one that bevels inward, one that bevels outward, one that bevels inward, then goes up straight. So I kind of a plan before I start converting to geometry. So I'm going to go ahead and convert to geometry now. And I'm going to go to the edit tool. And I kind of have the plan in my head. So I want to go here, and again, I'm going to double click on a face so that I can select all the faces. Double click on the face, go to the select planar selection, selects all the faces, go ahead and hit enter twice. So now that I have all the faces in, I'm going to extrude inward, okay? But I'm going to extrude inward, but move it up a little bit to kind of create a little bevel. So I'm going to go ahead and hold shift and extrude inward. And now I actually do want to not extrude, but just move it up, okay? And if you guys can't see that, it creates like a little bevel, okay? So just create a little bevel like that, a kind of sharp bevel. And let's go ahead and do another extrude. So I'm going to go ahead and hold shift and extrude out to make another set of faces. But this time I do want to bevel, so I'm not going to extrude. I'm going to go ahead and scale it outward. And what that does is creates a bevel going inward and outward, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and use another extrude. I'm going to extrude upward to create another set of faces. And if you're waiting for me right now, it's because Vectory is a little bit laggy. So again, if you're running into performance issue, lower number of faces, down, maybe even if you want, go ahead and put this in a separate, file, a separate project, because you're up to allowed to 3 projects if you're running into lag issues. So just go ahead. I'm just going to go ahead and wait. And I'm sure it's going to work in a few more seconds because there we go. So it deselected my faces, not a big deal. I'm going to go ahead and click on the faces again, select planar, enter twice. Okay, so now that I have all the faces again, okay, so I'm going to make my next extrude. I'm going to hold shift and pull the up arrow to create another extrusion. And now I want to bevel it in, so I'm not going to extrude. I'm just going to pull in the double circles to kind of create that bevel. Okay, and that's kind of the 3 layers I wanted to make to kind of give it a little bit of customization. Now I'm just going to kind of pull it up. So I'm going to move my camera now to have it snap, kind of zoom out, hold Alt, and kind of move up here and kind of pull it up to somewhere up there. So I'm going to kind of go all the way up here somewhere. And here's why I probably want to, I kind of forgot where I'm at now. So I'm going to go back to my my model here. Oh, so I'm a little bit too high. I'm going to pull it down a little bit. And Again, this is just for reference. It doesn't have to be exactly like this. You can create your own ideas and concepts about how you want to design your columns and pillars. I just want to show you some ways to add a little bit of detail, but not too much detail. Again, because we're running into performance issues. So I'm going to go up here and create one more circle, maybe another circle, and then maybe another circle, and just kind of create kind of a bevel out, maybe another straight, and then another bevel out or something. And again, it's not just to be too exactly to the model here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the faces, uh, double click on the faces, go to my select planar to select all the faces again, enter twice, and I'm just going to hold, not hold shift, just go ahead and drag it down because I was a little bit too high. So drag it a little bit lower. And again, I'm going to create kind of 3 layers of extrusions. So I'm just going to extrude the first one. Okay. And I want to actually make it a little bevel here. So I'm going to pull out with the second one. That creates that little bevel there. And I'm going to extrude upward, create another set of faces. And I want to go ahead and bevel that inward now. So I'm not going to extrude. I just want to fix that set. Create that little inward. And let's do another one here. So I'm going to go ahead and extrude again. Kind of get the same height. I'm just not going to extrude it. I'm just going to scale it outward to kind of create maybe a little bit more outward. Create a little bit of that geometry, and then go ahead and create kind of, it's almost like a second bump here. Kind of hold shift again to extrude again. This time I'm going to scale it inward. And now you kind of have that double circle look that creates that column look. And there you have it. That's kind of finishes my one column. I'm not going to go and make the rectangular top on this thing and go into crazy detail. You can if you like. I'm trying to keep the video short here. Teach you how to model as quickly as I can. So just go ahead and go back to the object mode. And I have my one column here. And now I want to make 6 of them. So I'm not going to obviously duplicate it and kind of move it by hand. That doesn't seem very smart. It seems like this is one of those things where you should have a tool for it, and we do. So in Maya, it will be something similar, but we're going to go here. Let's go to array linear. That makes a straight line. But you look here, it says array radial, meaning circle. So go ahead and click on array radial. And right now it creates some duplicates. But you're not sure where the duplicates are. I'm just go ahead and create 6 of them because these are 6 columns. So I'm going to increase this number to 6. And if you turn off keep position, you'll see all 6. So I'm not keeping the position. I'm letting them kind of create the radial around, and that's it. I kind of have my 6. However, they're not where I want it positioned. I want to position it more closer and more taller, obviously. So I'm just going to decrease the radius here to something like that. Oh, there goes my 30 minutes. There goes, go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and push it into something like 40. I'm going to snap my camera, kind of see that I have my 6 where I want it. Maybe I want to go a little bit more, maybe 45 or something. Yeah, 45 looks good. Go ahead and move my camera again. I'm going to use the up arrow to kind of push them up. Again, use my camera and pull the up arrow and kind of get it to land softly right on top there with no gaps. Oops, I have a little gap. Go ahead and go back here and push it down just a tad bit. And it looks like, oh, there's still some gap. And push it down. And there it goes. Nice and perfect there. Okay, and the last part now is the top of the structure. Let's go and create it quickly. Now, you could think about it as starting with the cylinder and working your way up, but if you plan it correctly, it's actually pretty easy to use the bottom of the circle to create these, but it's not easy to create a cylinder and create the top. So I'm actually going to create the top first in this example. So I'm going to go ahead and go to sphere. Here's my sphere. I'm going to pull my sphere up. Let's go ahead and check the size and make sure that it's a little bit smaller than the columns. So it's snapping, it looks about right. It's already smaller than the columns. So let's go ahead and leave it the way that it is. And let's go ahead and change the segments. Now, again, you're running into performance issues. Go as low as 8. I wouldn't go to 6 unless you're really having performance issues. 8 still makes it look like semicircle-ish. If you go to 6, it starts to look like a hexagon. Um, so I'm gonna, since I'm a higher performance here, I'm gonna go ahead and go up to 12 because I like multiples of 6. Um, so I'm gonna go ahead and decrease the height segments. I'm not too concerned about that. So let's go and convert to geometry so that we can edit this thing. I'm gonna go to the edit tool. Now that we have access to the faces, vertices, and edges, I'm gonna delete all the bottom faces here. So I'm gonna go to face here, and I'm gonna use the Marquee tool. So if you go to select tool, there's a Marquee tool here. And I'm just going to select all the faces on the bottom. Now this vectory says if I basically select the entire face, it will be selected. Where in Maya, if you click on partial faces, it will select it. So it all depends on how you want to use the Marquee tool. The vectory default is that if you click over the entire face, it will select it. So I'm just going to hit delete. And I hit delete and I delete all those faces, and now you see I have a top of the circle, and I also have a edge loop here that I can work with. So let's go ahead and work on the edge loop, and kind of look at my reference one more time before I go and do that. Kind of have a plan here. So it looks like there's 3 layers until it gets to the most outer layer, then a couple inner layers, and then kind of a long part, and then kind of a couple little small ones for detail. And again, you don't have to draw it exactly to this. I just, whenever you get tired, just go ahead and create less detail. But let's go ahead and at least teach you how to make some detail. Okay. So again, I'm going to click on the edge here, and I'm going to double click on the edge. It will allow me to select a loop selection. I'm going to hit enter twice, and you can see now I selected the entire edge loop. So I'm going to create the first ring. I'm going to go ahead and extrude outward. So I'm going to hold shift and extrude and scale outward. Okay. That creates that first ring. I'm going to go ahead and extrude again, but this time pulling the down arrow to kind of create that first steps of faces. Okay. Now I'm going to extrude out again. Okay. To kind of create the top lip of that next ring. I'm going to go ahead and extrude again, holding shift and down arrow to create another set of rings there. I said 3 of them, right? So let's go and do another one. Again, I'm going to hold shift and scale outward to extrude outward. That creates another set of faces. I'm going to hold extrude and then pull it downward to create faces going down. And that's kind of like the maximum part here. So now I can go ahead and extrude inward. So now I'm going to kind of look at the bottom part here. I'm going to hold shift and extrude inward because that's kind of like the most farthest part of my structure. So I kind of extrude it inward. You can see right here I'm creating a face underneath. I'm going to hold shift to extrude downward again. Okay. And go ahead and pull inward one more time. Hold shift, extrude inward. Okay. Hold shift, pull downward. Okay. And let's go ahead and make this one the long face actually. So I'm just going to hold shift and pull it even, or not hold shift, just pull the edge ring that I already have and kind of make it the longest part of the face here. And now let's do a couple last inwards and outwards and inwards to kind of get that detail. I'm going to hold shift, extrude outward. So it creates like that top face right there. Hold shift, pull downward. And actually, let's actually kind of create a little bit of a bevel. So let's go ahead and not extrude, but just go ahead and pull it outward a little bit to create a little bit of a bevel. Okay. And let's go ahead and hold shift to pull another set of faces. But this time I'm going to extrude downward, but I'm not going to extrude inward. I'm actually just going to bevel inward. Okay. And that creates that little bevel there. And looks like I'm basically done. And now I just want to make sure I have a set of faces here. Now, maybe you want your gazebo to kind of have a inward body that you can kind of go in there and look in there. That's up to you. So I'm just going to pull another set of faces, not because I want it to be, but I'm going to use it to collapse and kind of close up the structure. And it's up to you if you don't want to close it. If you want to leave it like this, it's up to you. So I'm just going to head and use hold shift and extrude downward. And I'm going to kind of go here and use a tool, kind of like merge to center. But inside Vectory, it is called um, cut, ver, cut open boundaries, mesh tool, uniform. Oh, doesn't work. Okay, so it doesn't work on edges, but it does work on vertices. So let's go ahead and use vertices. So I'm just go switch to vertex to vertice mode. So I have all the vertices now, and there's a button right here called collapse. So I can collapse all those vertices into one vertex, and you see now it creates the faces. So when I connected all those vertices together, it creates the face. And now I can just hold shift and kind of get it to snap with all of the other ones. And now we have the bottom of the structure. Now, again, if you want to be able to look inside it, because that's what you're aiming for, to have like an inward dome, you can go ahead and cut out the inside of this if you want. Maybe create a small bevel inward to give it a little bit of volume so it's not looking like paper, and then you can be done. But that's all I wanted to show you. So let's go ahead and do some final touches. Let's go back to the object mode. So you can see now I have my three parts, the base, the columns, and the top. So we're going to merge all these. If you're kind of done and you're happy with the way it looks, I'm going to go ahead and control shift all three things and all three objects and right click and go ahead and merge them together. It creates one merged object. We're going to call it structure. Okay. And let's go ahead and add a material to it while we're here to kind of put the final touches on this. Let's go ahead and go to our library. And if you go to the library, it usually brings you to this collection page. You can just go in here and type in marble, enter, and you can see here some marbles that it has. It already has some 3D assets, but we're looking for materials now. So you actually click on the material one and type in marble. It'll limit it to only materials. And go ahead and try 5 materials, and it sees it's not too many of them. See which one you like. I don't like that one. The green one's pretty cool if you're trying to do like a ivory looking or marble, like a green marble looking ones like in Greek. They're famous for their green marble. You can try a white marble. I clicked on something else I shouldn't have. Did I apply it on something else? I better control Z that in case I did. Nope. Okay, so let's go ahead and try white marble. That looks too clean. This one probably looks even more white. And I think this one is probably the one I'm going to choose. And yeah, that looks like the closest I'm going to get. Maybe I'll do the green one now. It just looks cooler. So it looks like it's different than the one that I copied over here. So I can call this Greek made versus Roman made or something. Okay, and there we go. And that's kind of completes our modeling of the structure. Again, you don't have to do my structure. You can do any structure you want. Just go ahead and make sure there's an entrance and exit. It has either column or facades, like Professor Newman requested. Again, I'm not asking for too much, not too complicated. Just showing me that you are putting some detail into your modeling, that you didn't just put a bunch of cylinders on top of a bigger cylinder with on top of a sphere. But some detail would be nice. Okay, and that does it for this video. I'll see you guys.